The night was cold and the wind was sharp. Daniel walked home from his late shift, his jacket pulled tight around him. The streets were almost empty. Only a few broken streetlights flickered weakly. Rainwater ran along the edges of the road, and the sound of thunder rolled in the distance. Daniel was used to nights like this. He lived alone, in a quiet part of the city where nobody cared about anyone else. But tonight felt different. Something in the air carried a strange weight, as if eyes were watching from the dark. When Daniel reached the front of his house, he noticed movement near the trash bins. At first he thought it was a cat searching for food, but then he froze. A small figure crouched there, shivering, its thin arms wrapped around its knees. The figure lifted its head slowly, and Daniel's breath caught in his chest. It was not human. Two large eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, the color of silver. Its skin was pale, with a faint shimmer like moonlight. And yet, its body was thin, weak, almost fragile. Daniel realized it was a girl, or at least it looked like one. She wore torn clothing, dirty and soaked from the rain. Her face carried exhaustion and fear. Daniel stepped back, his mind racing. An alien, here, in front of his home. It seemed impossible, yet he could not deny what he was seeing. The girl looked at him without speaking, her eyes wide, almost begging. "Who are you?" Daniel whispered. The alien girl did not answer. Instead, she lowered her head and hugged herself tighter, trembling. Her body looked ready to collapse. Daniel's first thought was to call someone, authorities, neighbors, anyone. But something inside him stopped him. She did not look dangerous. She looked lost, hungry, and broken against his better judgment. Daniel sighed and spoke again. "Are you hungry?" No answer. But he saw the way her eyes flickered toward the trash bins. She had been searching for food like a stray animal. Daniel rubbed his forehead. This was madness. Yet he could not leave her there in the rain. So he said, "You want work? Clean my house and I'll give you food." For the first time, the girl moved. She looked up slowly, as if trying to understand his words. Then, weakly, she nodded. Daniel opened his door and stepped inside. For a moment, he expected her to run away. But after a pause, he heard soft footsteps behind him. She entered his home, dripping rainwater onto the floor. Inside, Daniel pointed toward the kitchen. "Sit. Wait. I'll bring something." The alien girl sat on the edge of the chair, silent, her silver eyes watching everything carefully. Daniel placed a plate of bread and fruit in front of her. She stared at the food as if she had never seen anything like it before. Then, slowly, she ate every bite, quick and desperate. Daniel leaned against the counter, watching. Questions filled his mind. Where did she come from? Why was she here? Who was she running from? But he said nothing. He only said, "Tomorrow, you can clean the place if you want more food." Again, she gave a small nod, her expression unreadable. The rain outside grew stronger. Lightning flashing across the sky, Daniel felt uneasy. Something about this girl was wrong. No, not wrong. Just different. She was hiding something. He could feel it. Later that night, Daniel prepared for bed. The house was quiet. The only sound was the storm outside. He told himself he had done enough, giving her food and a roof for one night. Tomorrow, she could leave, and his life would return to normal. But when he opened his bedroom door, he froze. The alien girl was there, lying on his bed, her small body curled tightly as if in fear. Her eyes were closed, but her hands gripped the blanket as though she expected it to be taken from her. Daniel's heart pounded. He did not know whether to be angry, afraid, or shocked. Why was she in his bed? Had she sneaked in because she felt unsafe, or was there another reason? The storm outside roared louder. Daniel stood in the doorway, staring at the strange, fragile being now asleep in his bed. He realized his life had just changed forever, and he had no idea what danger had followed her into his home. Daniel did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of a chair, staring at the closed bedroom door. Inside, the alien girl rested on his bed as if it belonged to her. His mind refused to calm, and every sound of the storm outside felt louder than before. At midnight, he finally stood and pushed the door open. The girl's silver eyes were already open, glowing faintly in the dark. She had not been sleeping. She had only been waiting. Daniel's voice came low and sharp. "Why are you in my room?" The girl said nothing. Her small hands pressed tighter around the blanket. Her lips trembled. And then she whispered only 3 words. "They will come." Daniel froze. "Who?" he asked. But she shut her eyes, shaking her head like a frightened child. Lightning lit up the window, and Daniel caught a strange expression on her face. Not anger, not pride, just fear, deep fear, the kind that comes from running too long, from losing too much. He stepped closer, trying to stay calm. "You can't just stay here without telling me the truth." But the alien girl pressed her finger to her lips. "Quiet," she whispered. They listen. The storm outside cracked. With thunder, Daniel felt his chest tighten. What had he brought into his home? A runaway. Yes. But from where? And from who? He wanted to push her out, lock the doors, and forget this night ever happened. But instead, he found himself lowering his voice. "And what do they want with you?" For a long time she did not answer. Her eyes stared at the window as if shadows were moving beyond it. Finally, she spoke in a voice so soft, Daniel almost missed it. "They want me back, because I escaped." Daniel blinked. Escaped from what? Her silver eyes flicked toward him, filled with something between shame and sorrow. "From my own kind," she said. "From the cage they built for me." The words chilled him. He had expected hunters, maybe the government, maybe humans, who found her and wanted to use her. But no, she was running from her own people. Why, he wondered. Would her kind cage her? What had she done? Or what had she refused to do? Daniel wanted to ask more, but she lifted her hand, pointing to the wall. Strange glowing shapes began to appear, faint lines of light curling across his wallpaper. Symbols, no, sigils, that seemed to move like liquid silver. Daniel's heart jumped. What is that? Her voice carried a strange strength now, though her body still looked weak. A shield to hide this place from their eyes only for a while. She swayed as if the effort had drained her, then leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Daniel stared at the glowing marks, unable to understand. The room no longer felt like his own. It felt like something else, an outpost, a hiding place, a target, he muttered. "I should never have let you in." The girl turned her face toward him quickly. Her voice broke as she said, "Please do not send me away. Not tonight." There was something raw in her tone. Not a lie. Not manipulation, just fear, desperate fear. Daniel had heard many people beg before, but never like this. It was not for comfort, not for money, not for kindness. It was survival. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. "Fine. One night. That's all." The girl nodded, though her eyes told him she did not believe his words. Outside, the storm raged on. But Daniel noticed something else. A faint hum, deep and unnatural, drifting through the night. It was not thunder, it was not rain. It was something mechanical, distant, searching. Daniel moved to the window, pulling the curtain aside. His blood ran cold, far away in the sky. Faint blue lights flickered in slow patterns. Not airplanes, not helicopters, something else. And as he watched, the lights shifted, scanning the streets below. The girl's whisper came sharp and urgent. "They are near." Daniel dropped the curtain and turned. For the first time since meeting her, he felt not pity, but dread. She had not lied. Something out there was hunting her, and now, because she was inside his house, it was hunting him too. He swallowed hard. His normal life was gone, replaced by silver eyes, glowing marks, and shadows in the sky. Daniel wanted to tell himself he could walk away, that this was not his problem. But when he looked at the trembling girl curled on his bed, he knew he could not anymore. The morning came slowly, but Daniel did not feel rested. He had barely slept, his mind restless with strange images, silver eyes, glowing walls, and the distant hum of machines searching the night. When sunlight finally slipped through the curtains, the house felt heavy as if the shadows had not truly left. The girl was awake before him. She sat quietly at the kitchen table, her hands folded in her lap, her head lowered. Daniel noticed the plate of food he had left for her was untouched. Her eyes were fixed on the window, unblinking, as though she was listening for something only she could hear. "Why didn't you eat?" Daniel asked, his voice rough from lack of sleep. The girl finally looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly even in daylight. Her answer came soft. "I cannot eat when they are near." Daniel frowned. "They?" he asked, though he already knew who she meant. The girl gave no reply, only pressed her hands tighter together. As Daniel poured himself coffee, he noticed something strange. On the walls of his living room, faint silver lines remained from the night before. Symbols that looked alive, their edges shifting as if breathing. He stepped closer, unsettled. "What did you do to my house?" The girl stood quickly, moving between him and the wall. "Do not touch," she said firmly. Her voice shaking, Daniel stared at her, surprised by the sudden strength in her tone. "What are these marks?" She lowered her head, whispering. "They are protection to hide us from the Watchers." Daniel felt his chest tighten. This was no ordinary girl, and no ordinary danger. He wanted to shout, to demand she erase the strange, glowing scars on his walls. But something stopped him. The way she looked at him, fragile yet fierce, like someone who had lost everything but still fought to survive. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "This is insane," he muttered. "I just wanted to help now. I'm in the middle of something I don't understand." The girl's lips trembled, her voice breaking. "You helped me when no one else would. I did not mean to bring danger to you." For the first time, Daniel felt something shift inside him. It was not just fear anymore. It was a bond, fragile and unwanted, yet real. This creature, this runaway alien, trusted him, maybe more than anyone else in her life. Before he could speak, there was a sharp knock at the door. Daniel's heart jumped. He exchanged a glance with the girl, who went pale instantly. The knock came again, harder this time. Then a voice called, low and commanding. "Excuse me, sir, we're searching for someone. Have you seen anything unusual in this area?" Daniel froze. The girl grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong, her whisper urgent. "Do not answer." The knocking grew louder, the voice firmer. "Sir, open the door, it is important." Daniel's mind raced. If he stayed silent, they might break in. If he answered, they might see her. Either choice was dangerous. Finally, he stepped toward the door, motioning for the girl to hide. She pressed herself into the corner, trembling, her silver eyes wide. Daniel cracked the door open just enough to see two men outside. They wore dark coats, their faces hard, their eyes cold. One of them held a small device that pulsed with blue light. The man's voice came calm but sharp. "A strange signal was traced near here. Have you noticed anything unusual?" Daniel swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "No," he lied. "Just a quiet night." The men stared at him for a long moment. Then one leaned closer. "If you do see anything, anyone, tell us for your safety." Daniel nodded quickly and shut the door before they could say more. When he turned, the girl was still pressed against the wall, her body trembling. "They know," she whispered. "They feel me here." Daniel's chest tightened. His simple life was gone, replaced by danger he could not escape. Yet when he looked at her, fragile and terrified, he knew he could not hand her over. He whispered, "You're safe here. For now." The girl's eyes filled with something Daniel did not expect. Tears. She had not cried until now. Her voice broke as she whispered, "No one has ever said that to me before." Outside, the sound of engines rumbled faintly. The hunters still searching. Inside, Daniel realized the truth. He was no longer helping a stranger for a meal. He was protecting someone who had chosen his bed as her only safe place. And the bond between them was no longer an accident. It was a promise. The silence in the house did not last long. Daniel pressed his ear against the door. listening to the faint sound of engines fading into the distance. But he knew it was not over. Those men were not ordinary officers. They were hunters, and they would return. The alien girl stood in the middle of the room, her hands trembling. Her silver eyes darted from the window to the glowing marks on the walls. "They are close. Too close," she whispered, her voice breaking. Daniel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. "You said these marks protect us," he muttered. "But if they already know, how long can it last?" The girl pressed her palms together and whispered in a strange tongue. The silver symbols flickered, burning brighter for a moment, then dimming again. Her shoulders sagged, weak from the effort. "Not long," she admitted. "They will break through the shield soon." Daniel's stomach knotted. He had never imagined his simple life could change in such a short time. Just days ago, he had been nothing more than a tired man walking home from work. Now he was a target, hiding with a fugitive from the stars. Suddenly, the sound of heavy boots echoed outside. Voices barked orders, short and sharp. Daniel's blood turned cold. "They're back," he whispered. The girl grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back door. "Run," she urged. "Now." Daniel's heart pounded as they slipped into the dark alley behind his house. Rain still clung to the ground, and the air was heavy with the smell of wet concrete. The girl moved quickly despite her weak frame, her bare feet silent against the pavement. Daniel followed, his lungs burning. His mind racing. Behind them, doors slammed open. Footsteps thundered through his home. They were inside, searching. The pair turned into another street, but Daniel froze when he saw the sky. Blue lights swept slowly above, scanning the neighborhood. A low hum vibrated through the air like a living thing. The hunters were not only on the ground, they were watching from the skies. "Keep moving," the girl whispered, tugging him forward. Daniel forced himself to run again, his heart hammering. Every corner felt like a trap, every shadow like an enemy. The city that had once been so familiar now felt alien, twisted. He glanced at her, fragile yet determined. What power inside her made these people hunt so desperately? They ducked into an abandoned warehouse, the doors creaking as they slipped inside. The air smelled of rust and dust. Old machines sat broken in the corners, shadows stretching across the cracked floor. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "We can't keep running like this," he panted. "They'll find us no matter where we hide." The girl lowered her head, silent for a moment. Then she whispered, "My name is Leora." Daniel blinked, surprised. Until now, she had refused to share even that much. "Why tell me now?" he asked. Her silver eyes lifted to his, soft but steady. "Because you are the only one who has not betrayed me," she said. "You deserve to know who I am." The words struck him harder than he expected. He realized she had no one, no family, no friends, no safe place in this world or her own. And now, by chance or fate, she had chosen him. Daniel felt something heavy settle in his chest. He had promised her safety, and now it meant more than words. Before he could speak, the hum outside grew louder. A bright beam of blue light swept across the warehouse windows. Daniel's breath caught. "They're here," he whispered. Leora raised her hands, silver energy crackling faintly around her fingers. Her body trembled, but her eyes shone fierce. "I will not go back," she said, her voice shaking with both fear and resolve. The door burst open and shadows flooded inside. Men in dark coats stepped forward, strange weapons glowing in their hands. Daniel's instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet refused. Instead, he moved in front of Leora, shielding her with his body. The hunters aimed, their voices cold. "Step aside, human, she is not yours." Daniel's voice came rough but steady. "She's not yours either." The words surprised even him, but when he felt Leora's trembling hand clutch his sleeve, he knew he meant them. In that moment, she was no longer a stranger. She was someone he had chosen to protect. The hunters advanced, weapons humming. Daniel braced himself, though he had no plan, no weapon, only stubborn resolve. Then, in a flash, one of the hunters fired. A burst of blue energy shot across the room. Daniel barely had time to push Leora aside. The blast caught his shoulder, burning pain searing through him. He collapsed, gasping. The world spinning, Leora cried out, her silver eyes blazing with sudden light. She knelt beside him, pressing her glowing hands against his wound. Warmth spread through his body, dulling the pain, knitting torn flesh together. Daniel stared in shock as strength returned. "You healed me," he whispered. Her voice came fierce but broken. "I cannot lose you. Not you." The hunters stepped closer, but Leora rose, her hands glowing brighter. For the first time, Daniel saw the power she had been hiding, and he realized this fight was only beginning. The warehouse fell silent after the attack. Dust floated in the air, and the faint glow of silver symbols on the walls slowly faded. Daniel sat on the cold floor, breathing hard, the pain in his shoulder mostly gone. He touched the spot where the energy blast had burned him, but there was nothing left, only faint warmth. His eyes lifted to Leora, still kneeling in front of him, her hands trembling from the healing. She looked weaker than before, her face pale, her body shaking. Yet, her silver eyes burned with fierce light. Daniel whispered, "You saved me." Leora lowered her gaze, her voice soft. "I owed you. You risked yourself for me." The hunters had retreated for now, but Daniel knew they would not stay gone. The blue lights in the sky continued to sweep the city. Hunting. He leaned against the wall, his breath uneven. "Why?" he asked suddenly. "Why do they want you so badly?" Leora's eyes darkened, and for a long moment she said nothing, her hands folded tightly in her lap as if holding back words too heavy to speak. Finally, she whispered, "Because I was never free." Daniel frowned. "You escaped from your people, didn't you? You told me that." Her lips trembled and she nodded slowly. "Yes, I escaped, but not from ordinary life, not from rules or duties. I escaped from a cage." Her words hung in the air like broken glass. Daniel felt his throat tighten. "A cage?" Leora's voice shook as she explained. "They kept me locked, not because I was dangerous, but because I was valuable. My blood carries something rare, something my people trade. I was nothing more than a prize to them, a tool, a thing to be, sold to others." Daniel stared at her, shock spreading through him. "They wanted to sell you?" She nodded, silver tears welling in her eyes. "To the highest bidder, to whoever could pay in power or wealth. I was not a daughter, not a child, only property." Her voice broke, and the words poured out as if they had been trapped inside for too long. "I watched others like me disappear, never to return. Some cried, some fought, but all were taken. I refused, and so they locked me away. I lived in darkness, counting days, waiting for a chance to run." Daniel's chest ached. At her confession, the image of her weak body by his trash bin came back to him. Not just hunger, not just fear. It was the weight of chains unseen. He muttered, "No one deserves that." Leora looked at him, her voice breaking again. "When I escaped, I thought humans might be different, but many only stared, some shouted, some tried to trade me like my own kind. Until you." Daniel blinked. "Me?" Her eyes softened, glowing gently in the shadows. "You gave me food, you gave me shelter, you did not ask for anything. Do you know how rare that is?" Daniel looked away, guilt tugging at him. "At first I only thought you were strange, broken. I didn't help because I was good, I just couldn't leave you in the rain." Leora shook her head gently. "And still, you stayed. Even when danger came. That makes you different." The sound of engines outside reminded Daniel that danger was not gone. The hunters were still searching, their voices echoing faintly in the distance. Daniel's voice hardened. "If they find us here, we're finished." Leora lowered her head, her voice heavy. "I told you before, helping me makes you a target. They will not stop until you are gone too. If you want to leave me, leave now. I will not blame you." Daniel's jaw tightened. He thought of his empty life before her, his silent home, his long nights with no meaning. And then he thought of her, fragile, trembling, yet brave enough to run from chains. "No," he said firmly, "I'm not leaving you, not now." Her silver tears finally fell, glistening like small stars. For a moment, the warehouse no longer felt empty. It felt like two broken souls had found something stronger than survival: trust. But the moment was short. From outside, a voice called Daniel's name, cold and sharp. "Daniel, human, bring her out, or you will not live to see the next hour." Daniel's blood froze. They knew his name. The hunters were not only after Leora now, they were after him too. He turned toward her, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "They've found us." Leora stood, her hands glowing faintly once again. Her silver eyes no longer just afraid, they were ready, and Daniel realized the truth. The fight ahead would not be just hers. It was theirs. The warehouse walls shook as the hunters' voices echoed through the night. Daniel stood frozen, his name still hanging in the air like a curse. How did they know him? How could strangers from another world know the name of a simple man? Leora stepped closer, her silver eyes sharp, her hands glowing faintly. "With energy, they marked you," she whispered. "When they fired on you, their weapons carry more than pain. They can track you now wherever you go." Daniel's stomach dropped. So that was it. By saving her, he had already been pulled into their war. He was no longer just a man caught. By chance, he was part of the hunt. The sound of boots crunched outside, engines hummed, and strange blue beams swept the walls. Daniel clenched his fists. "We can't keep running," he muttered. "They'll never stop. Not until they have. You or me." Leora's eyes softened, though fear lingered in them. "You should not fight, Daniel. You are human. Fragile. They will kill you." Daniel let out a sharp laugh, bitter but brave. "Fragile or not, I'm not handing you over." The words seemed to strike her deeply. Her lips trembled, her voice breaking. "No one has ever said that for me. Not once." Daniel looked at her and felt something shift inside. This was no longer about pity. This was about choice, about trust, about refusing to let her face the darkness alone. The hunters outside grew louder, their weapons charging with strange hums. Daniel's mind raced. If they stayed inside, they would be cornered. But if they ran without a plan, they would be caught. His eyes fell on the broken machines scattered around the warehouse. Metal beams, chains, wires. An idea began to form. He turned to Leora. "If we can't run, then we trap them." Her eyes widened. "Trap hunters? Impossible." Daniel shook his head, his voice firm. "Not impossible, just dangerous, and I'm willing to try." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, slowly, Leora nodded. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, her voice steady. "Then I will fight with you." Together they moved quickly. Daniel dragged chains across the floor, setting them near the doorway. He pulled heavy crates into position, creating barriers and choke points. Leora traced glowing symbols on the ground, her trembling hands weaving lines of silver light. When she finished, the air inside the warehouse hummed with strange power. Daniel watched her, amazed. "You could destroy them with that power, couldn't you?" Her face turned pale, her voice heavy. "Yes, but if I use it fully, I will burn myself away. That is the cost of power for one like me." Daniel's chest tightened, so her strength was not endless. It was a sacrifice every time she used it. He muttered, "Then we'll win without burning you out. We'll use brains, not just power." The hunters burst through the door at last, weapons glowing, eyes cold. Daniel's heart hammered, but he did not move back. He stood in front of Leora, fists clenched. "Come on," he growled under his breath. "We're ready." The first hunter stepped onto the silver symbols, and instantly a burst of light shot upward. The man screamed, his weapon shorting out in his hand. Chains rattled as Daniel kicked a crate, sending it crashing into another hunter. The trap worked for a moment, but more hunters pushed inside, their voices sharp, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Daniel grabbed a metal rod and swung wildly, striking one across the shoulder. Pain shot up his arms, but he held his ground. Leora stood behind him, her hands glowing, bursts of silver light flashing across the room. Every blast drained her more, yet she refused to stop. "Daniel!" she cried, as one hunter raised his weapon toward him. Daniel turned too slow. The shot fired, but before it struck him, Leora leapt forward, taking the blast across her side. The sound of her cry tore through him. She collapsed, smoke rising. From her wound, Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, rage and fear boiling together. Why would you do that? He shouted, his voice breaking. Her silver eyes flickered weakly, but she still managed to whisper, because you stayed, and no one else ever did. Daniel's vision blurred with tears, but anger burned through him stronger than fear. He rose, gripping the rod tightly. Something inside him screamed that this was not only her fight anymore, it was his too. He charged at the hunters with reckless fury, swinging, striking, refusing to fall. The traps weakened the enemy. Leora's fading symbols still burned some back, but the numbers were against them. In the end, strong hands grabbed Daniel, pinning his arms, forcing him down. The hunter's leader stepped forward, his voice low and cold. You are brave, human, but foolish. She will come with us, and you will not see another sunrise. Daniel struggled, his voice raw with rage. No, you can take me, but not her. The leader smirked, his weapon humming as he aimed at Daniel. Behind them, Leora stirred, her eyes glowing faintly again. Though broken and weak, her lips moved, whispering words that shimmered in the air. The fight was not over. Not yet. The battlefield was silent at last. The blue lights had faded, the hunters had fallen, and the night carried only the echo of wind through broken streets. Daniel stood weak but alive, his clothes torn, his body aching from every strike. Beside him, Leora leaned against a shattered wall, her silver eyes dim, her breathing shallow. He looked at her, guilt and relief twisting together inside him. You should have left me, he whispered, his voice hoarse. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, though pain lined her face. I told you before, Daniel. I will not leave you. The city around them was ruined. Holes burned through walls. The ground cracked where energy blasts had struck. No one had come to help, no one dared. The hunters had not been human, but their battle had left scars on human soil. Daniel helped her stand, holding her carefully. We need to leave before more come. But Leora shook her head slowly, her voice heavy. More will come always until I end this. Her words cut deep. What do you mean? Daniel asked, his chest tightening. Leora looked at him with steady eyes. My people will not stop, not while I live. But if I return, if I face them on their own ground, maybe it will end. Daniel's hands tightened on her shoulders. No, that's suicide. You'll die. She closed her eyes, whispering, Then at least you will be free. The thought of losing her struck Daniel harder than any weapon. In only days, she had gone from stranger to something more, something he could not name, but could not lose. He shook his head fiercely. If you go, I go too. Her silver eyes widened, softening with emotion. You cannot. You are human. You will not survive their world. Daniel gave a bitter laugh. I wasn't surviving this world either, not until you. So if you fight, I fight with you. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The moonlight glinted against her pale skin, making her look both fragile and unearthly. Finally, she nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. Then we go together. They walked through the ruins, slow and unsteady, until they reached the edge of the city. There, hidden behind broken buildings, a ship waited, small and half-buried under debris. Daniel stared at it, realization striking him. You had this the whole time? Leora lowered her head. I was too afraid to use it. The signal would draw them faster, but now it is our only path. The ship's surface shimmered faintly, its design strange, yet beautiful. Daniel hesitated at the ramp, his chest heavy. Once he stepped inside, his life as he knew it would be gone forever. But when he looked at Leora, leaning weakly against the hull, he knew he had no choice. He followed her in. The interior glowed with silver light, the panels alive with symbols he could not read. Leora touched the controls, her hands steady despite her weakness. The ship rumbled to life, humming with energy. Daniel gripped the side, whispering, Where will we go? Her voice came soft but certain. To the heart of my people, to the ones who caged me, if they want me. They will have to face us both. As the ship lifted from the ground, the city fell away beneath them. Daniel watched his old world shrink. Into distance, his heart pounded with fear, but also with something else, purpose. For the first time, he was not running. He was choosing. Leora sat beside him, her hand slipping into his, fragile yet warm. Her silver eyes met his, filled with both sorrow and hope. "You do not know what waits for you," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand, his voice steady. "I don't need to know, all I need is to keep my promise." The stars stretched before them, endless and alive, and though danger waited in the dark for Daniel and Leora, it was no longer just survival. It was trust, sacrifice, and a bond no cage could break. Together they vanished into the night sky, toward a battle not yet written, toward a future uncertain but shared. And for the first time, neither of them felt alone.